Do you guys remember Book It? Book It was this reading program that Pizza Hut started back in the day. I think they started in the 80s, where if you read like 50 million books over the summer, you could get a free personal pan pizza. And I loved it. I mean, size-wise, those personal pans were mad stingy, but I mean, at least I didn't have to share it with my greedy little cousins, right? To this day, personal pan pizzas are like sacred to me. Like, I can't just go off and buy a personal pan pizza without having done something to earn it. And since Pizza Hut isn't handing out buckets to middle-aged women, I decided I was going to give myself a challenge to do something that I had been putting off for way too long. I decided I'm going to write a book. Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Rockyette, and I want to tell you about an epiphany that I had last year. I was in LA, stuck, and I had just finished revising my resume. All right, my resume looked like a Photoshop project. It had logos plastered on it, people who I collaborated with. I mean, a whole bunch of design, a whole little bit of substance. And I had just been going through this process of doing it, and it was like pulling hair. You know, going through my work history was definitely not something that I would do just because it seemed like a fun idea. But having done that, I was walking around Target thinking about that. That was on my mind, and it hit me. After 15 years of being a brand owner, working in the fashion industry, designing apparel, getting a degree in fashion, I realized I'm not a fashion designer. I am not a fashion designer. So what are you then?
Unemployed.
That's the question that came next. So what are you then? Rockyette, what are you then? And the truth is, I'm a storyteller. I love stories. I love books. I love reading. I love writing. I love all that stuff. And even as a designer, the way I designed was it was like narrative. You know, my whole vibe was telling stories, to tell stories through clothing, through the campaigns, through the photo shoots that I put together. It was all about carrying this narrative. Being a designer was my calling card. It was what everybody knew me as. It was my thing. It was like my leather jacket. I put it on. It made me comfortable. Writing was my secret identity. This epiphany was making me uncomfortable. Like changing clothes in a phone booth uncomfortable. I never considered going into writing as a profession until recently. And now the question is, do I really believe that I can do it? You know, it's a big thing to pivot at almost 40 years old. When I challenged myself to write a book, pizza aside, I had no idea what it was I was getting myself into. It was hard. There were days when I just wanted to crawl into my covers and not come out. But I knew that this time it was different because I'd started writing books before. I mean, for 20 years I've been writing a book. Different books, but I've been writing a book and never had finished. This time, taking myself seriously as a writer, I knew I needed to answer the question, was I going to do it when it was hard? Would I stick it out when I didn't like it? And would I be accountable enough to learn the craft of writing? Those were the questions I asked myself, and I knew that I needed to get through this process to get to those final answers. I needed to pick myself up. I needed to get over that finish line because I knew once I crossed that finish line, there was something. It was a breakthrough. It was going to be a breakthrough for me. So what could I do to keep myself motivated to push past this block, push past this giant? That's when I remembered Book It. For me, Book It was more than just nostalgia. Yes, I loved it. I liked the books. I liked the pizza, of course. But book it meant accomplishing something. It meant accomplishing and doing something, being rewarded for doing something that I loved. So I drew myself my book it and I said, you know what? I'm gonna finish this book. And when I finish this book, I'm getting me this personal pan pizza. I'm gonna have the most selfish celebration with the smallest 4 slices of pizza known to man. And I'm gonna have a good time doing it. But until I finish, no pizza. Like until I get this done, no filling in the gold stars, no going to Pizza Hut, none of that. I had to finish. There's this quote by Seth Godin that says, when you run out of time or you run out of money, you ship. I needed to ship. Shipping means at all costs, you just do it. It means that it might not be perfect. It might not be the best, but it's your best in the situation that you are. To ship means to produce with what you have to the best of your ability in the circumstances that you find yourself. It means pushing it out no matter what, regardless of what you have and what you don't have. So that's where I was. I was in a place where I had run out of time, I had run out of money, but I needed to get it done. I wanted to produce it, and I wasn't gonna let what I didn't have stop me from moving forward. I've shared my writing before, but I've never shared it and asked anybody to pay me for it. I was asking people to buy a digital ebook filled with intangible knowledge that I was hoping would somehow, some way do somebody some kind of good. Hopefully they liked it, but it was go time and I couldn't hold it back any longer. So I pressed send and then I waited. Waiting is hard.
This is what you guys be doing. So now